here comes a rumble. Yeah, this is pretty interesting.
Do we see any early game aggression? Because that's something we spoke about as well. It's like we want to see Unicorns do something in that early game. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, they definitely need to keep doing it. But what lane do you want to punish? Because versus LDLC, we saw Unicorns a lot punishing into the mid lane, and this last game, we saw Unicorns a lot punishing into the top lane. Who do you want to bring down this game?
Yeah, and I think that's the big part, right? Like, you've got actually a ton of options here of UL. I think your best bet is to unlock Ruby from the mid lane, right? Like, play your normal style.
I'm a man of few words and a man of...
Back from that previous game, because if they get to the later stages, I just love that comp.
And kind of referring back to that, look, we have to refer back to that first game. It was such an incredible slugfest, but it was a slugfest between KARMINE Corp, back-to-back champions, so much experience, but you look over at players like Ruby, who has been through some of the major regions, been around the place, and outplaying that late game. And Sarah, I tried the Ricard level 1.
I was going to say, this was innovative a year ago. it's kind of standard now because it's like your CC and a dash. So
Gragas support did it for a while.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. We know that this is something you can go for. Still, though, KARMINE Corp like to see them go for that little bit of early aggression.
Keep them on their toes.
They got to keep them on the toes because, again, similar to game 1 and coming into game 2, we are going to be looking at that early pathing between the Volibear and the Jarvan.
And particularly in this game because Volibear has just been like the Exodia of level 3 ganks. You hit that level 3 and they start to do terrible things in the 2v2s, and even someone like Ruby who got priority in that last game against the Volibear might not be such an easy affair.
And I'd love to see pressure put down top. If they can catch out the Rumble, who obviously is a mobile, gank him, he has no teleport to get back, but it's so risky when he has that Ignite in pocket because if it does turn into 2v2, it's such a massive advantage because of that. And honestly, I feel like Unicorns, they're pretty comfortable here, right? They've got a really strong bot lane that's going to be able to just bully out with the MF. They're going to have prior early. Top lane, we've seen Ivo be super comfortable in this matchup. And the fact they have this Ryze Jarvan who can really get things rolling in the side lanes, I think their early game should be easy to play.
And what's kind of holding that up is you're saying, like, you got this 2v2, which is very oppressive from the Unicorns. I mean, mid lane, we saw that Ryze kind of got the better of the Azir in the first few levels. And then it's a Rumble. Rumble is kind of like what Graves has shown in the last season. For those of you who don't remember the last time Rumble was meta, Rumble just pushes waves. That Flame Spitter destroys minions. So it feels like Lurox has much more ability to play off of his lanes. However, you push too far, someone like Volibear, as we said, can very much catch you out. So Unicorns, they have the push. Need to use it responsibly.
See if he's able to use it responsibly. I'm curious as well, Lurox going with the Summoner Spellbook as well. It's kind of been the meta change as such. We saw First Strike for a while. We've moved forward towards the Summoner Spellbook. That's a little bit of better scaling and kind of gives you a little bit of extra element of surprise.
Yeah, the reason people first went First Strike is because we lost like the Gore Drinker, Sterex, Jarvan with the Conqueror. We have a lot of AD, but I can talk about this later. We have 1-1-3 looking for that early gank.
This is almost deja vu on the opposite side of this. You're going to get the flip up as well, the flash away from Ivo, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get away from this one here. Flash in, he won't get the stun just down yet, but it does not matter. Flame Spitter is not going to be enough. First blood going up to KARMINE Corp.
About that whole responsible part of pushing, this is something that we've seen so often with stuff like the Rumble top lane. You overpush and you die. It feels great shoving in the waves. It feels great taking hard trades, but as soon as that jungler falls, gets up there, it becomes so difficult. You don't have a teleport to bail this out. Horrible start for Unicorns.
And critically, Lurox wasn't there, right? He was close, but the fact he's not there, able to turn around, means they can go for that gank. And now Ivo, no TP, no flash available to him as well. Going to take a long time to get back to lane, and then when he's there, he's still going to be vulnerable. More vulnerable, in fact, without the Summoner.
Oh, speaking of vulnerable, I'm going to see Ignite go down to Rekklles, who's already healed and flashing away as well. On the mini-map, Ruby was looking to try and make a roam happen. So this is Unicorn saying, look, we know where our strength is, and it's in that bot side.
And it is, again, based off of one of these lanes, which can get that push early on. I mean, it was top lane, again, really the odd one out early lane in terms of, like, choosing to hyper push, but well, Unicorns played well around, opening up an opportunity for Ruby, didn't protect the rest of the map. Now the question is, what are you going to do about securing this top lane? Still don't have that flash, and at least Lurox is here to stop it this time.
I was going to say, it's actually put Cabochard in a bit of a bad situation. They're going to dive and flash with the flag and drag. 1-1-3 just hung his top laner out to dry, and now they can try and go for this one here as Ruby's moving forward. They know there's no flash on the Volibear. 1-1-3 is going to get Rune prisoned up. They will have the flag and drag in 2 seconds. There it is. Oh my days! 1-1-3, that was egregious.
But honestly, I'll say Cabochard as well. He just walked up to Ivo, and this is why Ivo loves this matchup, because when the mini-gnar gets up in his face, he just absolutely toasts him. disaster for K-Corp, and despite that early good gank, they've now thrown it back in return, and now this massive wave. Oh,
they can still do this. Cabochard still has flash though, as does
He wants to crash
Hantera.
this so bad.
Yeah, he wants to go back because he TP'd back immediately. He wants to try and get the wave back into a neutral state.
And you know what's really interesting, kind of collateral as part of this? You see Hantera here, you see Dreamer Ace here. That means that 2v2, one of the strongest points of KARMINE Core in that last game in terms of the laning phase, is not really going to be a factor. We know that the Misfortune, very safe farmer, gets to oppressively push out that lane, but when you have Rekkles on the other side, you expect him to get lane advantage. Doesn't really happen when your supports are being called top lane because of all the shenanigans happening up there.
And especially when you don't have summoners as well, and Reptile has both of his, you have to be a bit cautious if you do overstep. Not really an issue now, but especially when level 6 is hit, E into R for Misfortune can be enough just to 100-0 you, so definitely a precarious spot to be left alone. But I feel like Hantera being there did mean they could secure the crash. Things aren't as disastrous, but now Aibo 2 kills in pocket on that Rumble, and that is a lane that'll absolutely snowball, and its Ignite is back up.
And it's also, you know, the core part of the spicy hot pot is definitely the spicy part of that. Of course, you got some bullets flying over the top from...
That's the heat.
That's the heat. I mean, that was like, we're just cooking bullets in there? Is that what the Misfortune's
Is it regular chilies? Is it habanero ghost peppers? Where are we looking? What's the scale right now?
I will never eat one of them again, by the way. I tried it once. Yes, it was a horrible mistake. Again, that would be a horrible mistake for me. But KARMINE Corp might have to taste the bad end of that in this game, because that amount of gold onto that part of that composition is so dangerous to play against, and it's so easy to play around from the Unicorns. And you have to say here as KARMINE Corp, they got to try and buck that trend.
Well, 113 is going to try and make something work on the bot side, but he gets spotted out by a ward, so this should just be the wave being pushed in here, and this is good for KARMINE Corp. I like to see even junglers do this. They want to try and get a reset off. They want to try and crash that wave. 113 hovers off, and they don't overcommit to anything too egregiously.
Yeah, super important as well. Now Ruby has that level 6 available, because if you do end up overextending, if the wave ends up getting frozen in front of the Tower of Unicorns, they will just collapse onto you. And actually, they didn't even get the full crash, so Unicorns will be able to stall that wave there for a bit. Not a great reset coming out.
Oh my god, the Flame Spitter with the Ignite. That was just the overload damage. That is absurd. And Cabochard, yes, he's level 6. He's lucky Aibo wasn't.
I mean, I guess that's your appetizer for the hot pot later on. Just got to cook yourself enough for starters, and Aibo just using this to get control of topside.
And critically, Sorcery Shoes picked up by Aibo. Not only a big spike with the Magic Pen, but for melee champions into Gnar, having tier 2 boots early is such a massive factor, because you can close the distance like he did there, just burn him up.
Sure, it's that range, it's that move speed differential. Being able to just force them to use a lot of their defensive abilities earlier, because he's just so much faster than them. Because of that, see that matchup is getting harder for the Gnar. 113 called up again, but not able to do much because Aibo took such a hard trade earlier.
One more minion and Aibo would have been level 6. He was waiting to see if he could maybe cheat it off and go for an engage, maybe burn a flash or something, but wasn't to be done. The wave shall be pushed in here by Cabochard. Lorax is coming back up towards this top lane, and they really want to try and crash this, and 113 is here as well, so it's going to be a 2v2 on the top side. Flash is available for both top laners. That's going to be a good ultimate to try and get the hop out of Cabochard. They're going to try and just buffer this one out and flash away, but now 113 is in a little bit of a precarious point. He's going to be getting pushed down and flashing underneath his own tower. This is the 2v2 combination. This is where they're going to be strongest.
Yeah, the Ignite making all the difference there. Obviously, you don't have Aibo's here, but Lorax brings his, and then the Equalizer as well. Cabochard having just exhausted from being Mega, just perfect timing. And it feels like Lorax really has 113's number this game.
This time, no, it does go to the top side with that Spellbook Ignite. We don't often see big power plays with this summoner, but it's nice to kind of see a little more visually used at that point. Now they're going towards this Herald. Don't have the Equalizer. You're against that Stormbringer. I wonder if Unicorns are at a point of power to take this now.
He haven't got Flash here on 113, and he does have his ultimate available to him. Cataclysm is there for Lorax as well. Seiken is here with Ruby, so it's a 3v2 for the moment. This Rift Herald takes a bit of time to take down for the moment, and yeah, they're just smiling when they see Dreamer Ace. This is just good moves from the side of Unicorns of Love. They recognize that they got people out earlier, and they know exactly what they can do.
Yeah, critically, we actually saw Reptile moving up as well. That was a big difference maker there. The fact that they had both members of the bot lane moving meant K-Corp knew they couldn't go for that play.
Well, the time bot side just to clear that wave, make sure no plates, no damage can go down. Oh, I missed the cannon. Unfortunate, Reptile. Unfortunate. But someone we got to talk about from that last game, someone who's had a fantastic series so far, has been Ruby on this, on the rise now, but basically has been one of the big shining lights for the Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. A man who's coming in with so much power and presence and really starting to step up.
And Ruby was really where a lot of the things started and ended in that last game. Of course, Dream Race on the board had some huge highlights with the Tempered Face, but Ruby got that early push, managed to make some plays top lane, managed to open up the map a little bit more, and then even on the Tank Rise, a build which has sometimes come under a bit of criticism because, you know, it feels like you're just kind of present there and just an extra bag of HP for AD carries to pump DPS over. Did such a big job in those team fights, and seeing him on the rise again, looking to see how much he can reprise that performance in this game.
Critically, it's also such a massive denial. I feel like so many times when I thought of Seiken, it has been with that pick, and the fact that they've managed to get it on Ruby twice in a row. And yeah, Seiken's answered with the Azir. He had a spectacular game in game 1, but it still just wasn't enough. And this one, I feel like he's going to have to do even more, because I just don't see how Rekkkles is going to be able to team fight when he is that immobile carry and you're up against, as we've talked about extensively, so many tools to shut you down. This kind of feels like, oh, we're up against Rekkkles? Oh, I have a plan for that.
The big thing as well, I love how you mentioned as well for Seiken, it's just like, oh, he did so much damage and it wasn't enough. 58,000! 58,000 damage!
A lot.
Exactly. We were talking about it. It's like, it's one of those games you see on Reddit where it's just like, how did I lose? How did I not win this game? And that, it just is, it's how it is sometimes.
But talking about that, though, that was a game where it should have been a lot easier to deal damage. Yeah, you're into that Jin Zhao ultimate. That can make it a little bit hard fighting from that extreme range, but this time we could draw over the entire screen and say you can't walk here, you can't walk here, you can't walk here because you got the Misfortune or the Rubble, so many different things to block off different areas to fight in, and we might see that around the Dragon. Let's see how much damage these Karmine Core carries can do against this Wombo.
Big to note as well, Carboshard has TP, whereas Ibo does not. It looks like Karmine Corp should be able to take this one out. Lorax wants to go for a steal, doesn't feel like he's confident enough at the moment. Dreamer Ace walks a little bit too far forward. They're trying to burn down the support, and they should be able to do it. Never mind, he flashes away, and they're able to use the Serena Struffle, but it's the jungler going down. Look at Ruby just machine gunning now onto Seiken on Hantera. Hantera runs one way, Seiken the other. Ibo just keeps Gnar away from the fight, and that's going to be key.
And that's a critical thing, right? So much false confidence for K-Corp.
Oh, he caught him! That's a spicy meatball. That's going to be Ruby picking up another one. And Unicorns of Love, they're going from strength to strength.
Yeah, I mean, K-Corp, they got the Dragon because they knew they had the TP advantage. No TP on Ibo meant that they had that backing them up. But then suddenly Ibo started skirmishing with the Gnar, and the false confidence from K-Corp, you can see they committed to Dream Race and then instantly regretted it, tried to get out and lost members as a result.
You know, you get one Dragon, but Karmine Core, again, kind of harkening back to that last game and how they performed in groups. This is a team that is used to fighting from ahead. They're used to out-skirmishing, used to getting these crazy early fights when they finally get their items on their carries, but feels like Unicorns are really pushing them in that area of the game, and I didn't expect that in this matchup.
And I just feel like here, you saw them instantly dip to try and get out. Like, it was like they went in, and then we get the ult away from the volley bear instead of going further. They quickly knew that it wasn't an ideal situation, and we didn't see the AD carries move up for that one, but you did see in the picture-in-picture Reptile forcing the heal out of Rekkkles there with his ultimate.
I will say, yes, it is looking like Rekkkles is kind of getting bullied out. He did lose his heal out on the bot side, but he is still going at, you know, roughly the same in CS. So he's not losing as much as we probably thought he would, as we can see now. Carboshard, yeah, he needs to walk away. He will trade back fairly effectively and does have a couple of refillable potions in his back pockets. So, and I will say, with Ibo constantly roaming around, constantly looking for those fights, he is getting a bit of a CS lead himself.
And this is kind of where those CS kind of points all kind of lead to. It's like, well, yeah, AD carries are kind of even, but that's kind of the cost of that. Is that your supports have to then be out on the map because it is in a 1v1 AD carry scenario. And Dream Race has been active, has been showing up to these fights. Saw that actually that first Herald fight, Dream Race was the reason that Karmine Core peeled off in that fight just down there around Dragon. Dream Race was the one that really made the difference, even though it looked like they were picked off at the first point. But I have to see what can happen when these AD carries do come to the fore. Ibo.
Yeah, I was going to say 1-1-3. Had flash available. If he does land that stun, that is Ibo dead. He does have an ultimate available to him, so should be able to clear this wave. No problem whatsoever. But 1-1-3 wants to try and maybe turn off this tower and just go for him. They're going to be able to lock him down, shut him out. And that's just good proactive play from Karmine.
And normally diving a Rumble is a very hard thing to do. So much damage, but doesn't have a stopwatch. And Volibear turns off the towers. Easy as you like.
It just lets you cheat it, right? You don't even need the wave. You can't even deal with him if he's going to clear it out. You can just dive as easy as that. And we do get a response on the other side from the Unicorns, applying some pressure here. But K-Corp doing a pretty solid job there. I will say a big pivotal thing is the fact that they got that Dragon, because I feel like Unicorns comp in the mid game is so hard to deal with. A lot of these champions, the flat penetration for the Rumble, the 2-item spike for the Rise when he feels super bulky, the MF as well, and that Eclipse Manamune spike. This is where they're so powerful, and the fact that K-Corp has delayed the potential soul is instrumental. They don't necessarily have to fight this dragon in a minute 45 if they don't want to.
That's the big thing. It gives them 5 minutes. It gives you an extra bit of time to maybe get another half item onto your Zir, to get up to maybe 2.5, 3 items onto your Aphelios, and then you're looking to try and out-team fight the fight.
Okay, but counterpoint, they're still going to fight really difficult fights in mid-game. So yes, it's kind of like that lifeline. If you make it through steps, 2 through 4, when you get to that 5th stage, maybe at that point, it gets a bit easier. You got to get there. And
one thing I'll say is I think K-Corp should really choose their fights around summoners. I think critically as well for Rekklles. If he has flash or doesn't, that is make or break.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, remember how important the second Herald was last time? We talked about those mid lane turrets being so important. So, again, setting up for a larger confrontation here.
They've got a TP on Ruby, and it's already been unleashed, so they can TP anywhere they want. Here we go. It's going straight to the ward. Rift Herald down to 3,000. They could just take this one here, but it's going to be a bit of a smite fight right now. They haven't gotten it fully down. There they go. So, KARMINE Corp, they thought about it. They're waiting for a mistake, but like you mentioned, Ox, very difficult to fight into this Unicorns of Love side.
Sorry, he just walks up and exhausted.
Spellbook flex. I don't need this.
But I'll say that K-Corp at least forced a TP out from Ruby, and when it comes to answering side lanes, Ivo can't really do that because he doesn't have the TP himself. It kind of will be on Ruby, and that will be a bit problematic later on as Gnar starts to scale up into a bit of a side lane threat, that it will be Ruby and not Ivo is able to answer, and that's a potential avenue for K-Corp to find advantages.
There is obviously the bonus of Rumble just having such good long-range wave clear. If he feels like he's at the threat of the dive, if he's on the weak side of the map, he just puts that ult down and he clears out a wave. But of course, didn't work out that last time, but that's the theory of it. So Unicorns kind of resetting the map once more and trying to play around mid lane potentially.
Oh, Dreamer 8's going to find a little bit of an engage here. Force the ultimate out of 1-1-3, so not going to have that for the Dragon, and I think this is going to go over to Unicorns uncontested.
Yeah, not going to fight this one, which I think is the right call, but they might look to do something on the other side. Once again, looking for Ivo. The tower's low and Mega Gnar's there.
Oh, Mega Gnar, he gets himself on. He's going to try and clear out the wave, and he should be able to do it. Seiken is tanking, but should be able to get himself out alive. Dragon has traded gold for power, and that's what they're going to go for.
Okay, I know I said Rumble was hard to dive, but I mean, if you force that hard on me each time, it's a little bit more difficult. Of course, it isn't going towards the stopwatch. Rumble's built that less nowadays, and much more of a fan of building up just huge amounts of damage. What's the cost of this, though? You've lost yourself a Dragon, you lose yourself a mid lane out of turret, but they are avoiding the 5v5s, which we said would be a difficult thing at this point in time.
The charge, never mind. I thought it was going to get another charge, which would have been significant damage, but you've gained a kill and a tower. You've got a bit more pressure down the top side, and that gold, that CS lead is becoming significant. If observers are going to look at the gold very quickly, it is starting to creep up to about 1,500, and that Gnar is going to get big.
And that was something that you were talking about in terms of side lane Gnar being a bit of a problem, and it's coming back. We have Gnar that deals with them. Someone has to go deal with them. We could already see that. One of the reasons they could deal a lot of damage to Ivo in his laning phase at this point in silence was because they could keep pushing in. They're doing it again. 1-1-3's here this time.
Oh, they're going to keep going on that bum. He doesn't have his flash just yet. It's on a 2-second cooldown. He's not going to get it. And Cabochard is taking over on the top side. Ox, this is where KARMINE Corp love to have their resources.
And we've seen time and time again, they love to get Cabochard ahead, and he had a rough matchup here, but now he's just completely destroying Ivo. And although Unicorns have good engage tools, and although they have great team fight, the pressure's going to start to build, because if they just play this one out slowly, the Gnar is going to become more and more of an issue as the game goes on.
Yeah, again, zooming out the lens, as we do occasionally, the best teams in this tournament have found ways to deal with losing side lanes. You look at Fnatic Team Kesso, there were a couple of games in Brutes where they were playing around a bad top lane matchup for them, so they found ways to deal with it. You look at KARMINE Corp, you look at LDLC, you look at these teams who are sat around and they're like, okay, we're losing in the side lane. We won't let them use that advantage. So KARMINE Corp showing up, and one of those skill sets needed to be a top team.
Oh, Ivo, he does flash away this time around, uses his ultimate to try and just clear away the wave. As they're going to turn it off and kill him off. There's nothing he can really do here. And actually, I say that, he's almost surviving. They will trade it back finally. So it will be our 1-for-1, but they're just bullying in this top side.
There's no cross map.
Yeah, there's nothing coming from this. We finally see Ruby show up, but the fact this has happened on repeat and there's just been no real response from Unicorns is worrying, honestly.
Yeah, we see it finally, like a shadow from Ruby getting into that lane, but it's not Lurok's there in time. It's not Dream Aries there in time. Normally, when you are losing this hard in side lanes and you have to send someone there, you have to be very proactive about it. You've got to set up in advance. Unicorns just haven't done that bit. KARMINE haven't very, very professionally punished them.
They're going for the full side lane split push. Wit's End being picked up here by KaBoShard saying, look, I'm just looking to try and take you out. It was a tower traded in the bot side, but it is going to be answered in the top. So again, we're seeing this tit for tat, even if it's a little bit slow on the rotation.
I mean, as well, he knows it's either going to be the Rise or the Rumble in the side lane. Interestingly enough, we actually see the AP Rise build coming out from Ruby, which I do think will help him fare a bit better in terms of wave play if you are dealing with that Gnar, but does mean if you end up getting a bit too close to this Azir or this Aphelios, you'll just get shredded.
And there are two schools of thought which I've got here. In terms of, if you go tankier Rise, easier to pin someone in place for that damage of the Equalizer or everything else. Go more damage though, and actually your front line is effectively the Equalizer. The Equalizer's down, is like, hey, I don't need to be tanky. They're running away already. That's kind of your ability to play forward, but we'd be choosing to go the higher risk route.
Coming up now, minute 30 until the next dragon spawns. We can see that 2-item spike we talked about for the Misfortune and the Rise. We are also getting close to a second item here for Ivo. It is going to be a very strong point of power here for the side of Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. It's going to be how KARMINE Corp play around that.
Yeah, I mean, we have to see how these AD carries actually interact. They've basically done nothing this game so far.
Yeah, actually, they're like dead even in farm, and other than that one ult that Reptile did to force the heal from Nexus, they've just been farming up. I do feel like this is one of those situations where a lot of summoners available for K-Corp. I do feel like if we're going into a situation where they have their sums up, with a lot of sums up on both sides even, I think K-Corp can be more happy with that. And I think you're going to at some point have to contest the Dragon. It's a lot less risky to contest the third rather than the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, if you got that flash get out of the Cataclysm, out of that Equalizer, it definitely gives you an extra foothold in these fights. But the game's slowed down a fair amount. Starting to see towers starting to fall, the map's starting to even up a bit. And we are at that point, because it's harder to go towards towers, you're going to go towards objectives instead. That sets up to the 5v5s. We're finally going to get to see these big combos.
The big thing as well is mobility is actually not really that much of an issue for either of these teams, because you have the Hex Gates. You can see the Hex Rift now come into this play. You know, they are, in fact, Hex gating and coming into to try and make this one work for themselves. But it is going to be big. Asaken, he's in a little bit of a precarious position, should have himself a little bit of a shifting sands, is going to get himself over back towards it. He doesn't quite get in, but the charm comes out from Hantera. He gets locked up into a chokehold as they finally get themselves Demacia Hotpot. They've got Reptile over the wall, but the Dragon spawns and stops him from doing all the damage. It's a trade, though, of jungler for support. You don't have a jungler here for the side of Unicorns of Love, and the Hex Gates are coming in. 1-1-3, though. You're by yourself, buddy. You're a bear in the woods, and you're a little bit lost. Hop away from KaBoShard. He wants to get that Mega. He should be able to get it. There's a TP coming back in on top of this. This is Saken rejoining the fight. They're going to try and make this one work, but Ruby maybe going to try and take the 1v1. He will not win it. He's going to get pushing all the way back underneath the tower, and that's going to be huge. Flash for flash there. It's KARMINE Corp. It's scrappy. It's not clean whatsoever, but it is 100% in their favor.
And it's the fight with the summoners. Look how many of those summoners were used. Flashes all across the board, and you called out the Dragon, knocking the bullet time out of his cast, and then KARMINE Corp take the first part of that fight, and what feels like what should have been the start of these difficult team fights. Unicorns can't quite stick the landing.
And you know, we had that moment, we had the ultimates thrown down, but I think if you don't get the result from those ultimates, you lose a lot of your power in those team fights. And you know, it looks like a decent arrangement. They burn a lot of the mobility from Saken, and Lurox thinks, okay, I can now go, but he holds off for a little bit until he gets 3 members in with the Equalizer, and then it's, as you said, this bullet time interrupted by the Dragon.
He would have killed Saken. He
100%.
wouldn't
have been able to TP back in. But critically, those summoners, those flashes being available, getting them out of those ultimates, and now so much of the power in the team fight for Unicorns lost after that initial momentum.
And it is really just making sure you survive that initial onslaught, because then after that point, you actually had really good weapons on Rekkkles. Of course, he's changed over to the Gravitum after this point, but right at the start of it, Rekkkles was already in the fight. You had the Gnar bar already up there too. KARMINE Corp knew they wanted to go for a fight here. They took that risk, and it paid off.
Reptile lost both his flash and his heal because he wanted to try and get the heal off onto Ruby to get him the extra movement speed, a bit of survivability, and maybe turn that fight around. So sadly for him, it was all in vain. And now we're at 2 dragons apiece. Another hotly contested, incredibly close game.
You had a sitting choice. It's all in vain. Oh, it's just very misfortunate.
Yeah.
It was sitting there.
I'm better than that. I'm better than that. That's low-hanging fruit right there. But we are now coming into it. KARMINE Corp, we said that they wanted to try and delay that Dragon Soul. Ox, they've got themselves 2 in pocket.
They bought so much time.
They bought so much time now. They're going to have so much available to them, and they take down the mid-tier 1 as well.
And the great thing is, when the next Dragon's up, those summoners they used on the last one will be back up again. So I feel like Unicorns, they have to find windows to force things in between those frames, which is playing around the Dragons, especially as we're now looking at the earliest soul would be like 32 minutes for Unicorn. At that point, and the Azir and the Aphelios get very scary. The 2-item spikes we talked about for Unicorns has started to be moved past, and Rabadon's picked up Forsaken. We've got the Bloodthirster coming out soon for REKKLES. That's when they can start to get a lot more power in their pocket.
But counterpoint, last game, I would say, was even more in the favor of KARMINE Corp when it got to that late game. I think Unicorns comp in that last game was actually very difficult to pilot. I think this game, even though they don't have the advantages which
at the end of the day, who really knows?
Yeah,
who really knows?
I was gonna say it's all in perspective. I will add a caveat. It's like Unicorns will have had an Aphelios last time round. So that's a slight difference. It was able to assassinate REKKLES on the reg on that particular game. So we'll see how it ends up going.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Baron is now on the table. We are past the 25-minute mark. We are seeing multiple items being picked up. We can see 2 items there onto Seiken and REKKLES. You've got nearly 2. Assuming it's going to be like 2.5, 3 items here onto Cabochard as soon as he goes back, because he is becoming a big monster in these sidelines. Yep, goes back, picks up a Thornmail.
That's a big item.
That's
very nice. And suddenly you're sat there as Reptile, and maybe you're not completely shredding out the Gnar.
That's a weird item, though. I'm not going to lie.
I feel like something like a Randuin's maybe would have a bit more value in this case. Just try and get into range of someone, and if they do have to flash away from your ult, maybe you can still catch them with a bit of slow, or set up for someone like your Azir or your fellows. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be the person who's doing all of the damage, but you have such a powerful role in facilitating said damage.
I just feel like it's a weird one, just because like MF isn't really playing auto, he's just playing to press R, and then you have like AP threats in top and mid, and even the Jarvan is doing like a fair bit. But you know, he's completed it, and it does mean he can apply that 6% Grievous Wounds when he lands at CC. But either way, 1:20 until that Dragon, we didn't see too much action in between, and if we look at the summoners, Forsaken and REKKLES, we can see both of the flashes coming up again.
That Gale Force was so key, and now they can turn this one right back. Lorax is going to go golden. The TP's coming in, but that's a lot burned here by Unicorns. They have to try and just keep their jungler alive, because they know if they don't have their jungler, they don't have a fight to go for. Cabochard's on a flank, but he's been spotted. He knows he's not going to get the Mega out in time, and he's probably just going to have to play keep away.
And actually, KARMINE Corp doing a really good job of just threatening the CC onto Reptile. They're not making it easy for that.
REKKLES still has flash and still has heal. They're going to get flashed on top of him. The bullet time is good. Can he get himself out? No, he can't! And that's Pantera getting down alongside his AD carry. But now Unicorns of Love, they might not care for the Dragon at all. They might turn for the Baron.
And what they've done is they just picked apart KARMINE Corp the moment they showed that opening in the armor. They broke open that phalanx. They punished them on the overforce in mid lane.
They just didn't expect the Rumble to be there. Oh, now Ruby
almost takes down 113. They're already on the Baron. It is a relatively slow one. They are going to get pretty low from this one, and Seiken's still massive. You've got to be very careful here as he gets in on behind the rise. He will go golden. The Solar Flare does not land. That's going to force out the ultimate from the body. Look at the damage. The Gnar is going into the wall, but the damage is just not quite there. It's take down 2, and these health bars are so low. What started off so brightly for Unicorns ends in despair, and KARMINE Corp hold on.
And now there's an Azir up with the jungler. They can just start up the Baron. Unicorns, they found the fight, but then they flub it.
And what a great series this has been. We're only 1.5 games in, but we're already seeing these back and forth, late game decision-making, heat of the moment decided games. And I'm going to go back to one of said decisions, which is where this started off really, or just after. KARMINE Corp potentially caught Unicorns on the retreat, but then Unicorns turned it right back around them, and it is just a series of oversteps on both sides.
It's just a lot of overconfidence from the side of K-Corp, feeling like, okay, we have spread out wide, and then they find REKKLES, but the response here, Unicorns had lost so much health already, took more damage from the Baron, and then the Azir in a prime position to deal DPS, but we don't have time for replays in this
No,
series.
we do not. The Dragon was taken by Unicorns, puts him on the soul point. We are going to see Lorax going golden just today and take a little bit more time off of that Baron push, but it is KARMINE Corp still having a 4v5.
And it is actually, so the jungler's dead. Wow, you can go towards Dragon, except Dragon's already down. Soul point for Unicorns, but now with that numbers disadvantage, can you even defend the push? Last time you had so much wave clear. They had the Aphelios last game. Still trying to go for something.
Ibo thought he maybe found Seiken there. They have got some pretty decent wave clear here. They've got, actually, Rekkkles isn't here. This is a 4v4. Rekkkles is playing PvE.
Yeah, this is such a side lane Rekkkles. The double lift
The salty split push AD.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't really need him. And critically, Ibo didn't really pick the right target there. The Azir going to be able to dash away and has the flash as well. So now they get that bot lane tier 2. They get the top lane tier 2. Looking to get mid as well. They're just slamming the structures of Unicorns and just establishing a humongous gold lead.
And if you remember back to the early game of game 1, it was they knew they needed to make a play, didn't quite know how to make it happen. That's how it came across to us. Feels like the same situation here. When a Baron buff is in, you normally want to break open the split map, punish one of the sides of this very tightly balanced push, but they don't land the play. It's starting to fall apart on both sides now.
And they've broken up the base, and that's going to be inhibitor exposed on the bot side. They may lose the mid lane inhibitor as well. This could be it if they don't find something here. Lorax goes in on the flag and drag, but Rekkkles did have his trigger finger on the Gale Force. They're going to try and maybe get a little bit of damage here, and this is the combo, but it's not really working out. They're going onto the tanks. It's Cabo Shard and 113 soaking up absolutely everything. And Nightmare, they could just end the game here. Your combo's gone.
The combo's gone, and they tried to be decisive, and they flubbed it at the end.
They absolutely did, and KARMINE Corp need no more excuses. They need no more chances. They will equal up the series 1-1. And this, in the grand words of every shoutcaster ever, is a series.
It's absolutely annihilated them, and I feel like they punished the Rumble